Do you want to hear something insane? I spent an entire year studying for the LSAT, and at least half of it was a complete waste of time. I started off in the low 150s, and I stayed there for far too long doing LSAT prep textbooks, which were hand-me-downs containing fake LSAT questions. I spent it taking practice test after practice test, but my score was not going up. Explanations weren't helping, the practice tests weren't helping. Eventually, I did every single practice test ever released. There were roughly 45 or so of them at the time, and ultimately, I was able to bring my score from the low 150s to scoring in the mid to high 170s, ended up with a 175 on LSAT test day itself. And when I look back on what made the difference for me, it was that I stopped thinking about LSAT question stem type. Instead, I changed my approach to thinking about the method of reasoning in the stimulus. Crazy, right? I actually took the time to understand what I was reading with that short, bite-sized argument. A lot of folks get bogged down in drilling the 15 different types of logical reasoning questions, but they don't actually understand the argument that they're looking at, that they're supposed to be analyzing in the first place. So this strategy that I employed was to transform one LSAT logical reasoning question type into another based on the method of reasoning in the stimulus. This became the cornerstone of the Socratic review method framework, where I help students understand the argument, understand the question stem, understand the answer choices. This last one's especially important because there's a lot of tricks there. You want to know what makes the wrong answer choices tempting and what ultimately makes them wrong. You also want to know what makes the right answer choices unappealing and what ultimately makes them correct, because you have these traps of encouragement towards the wrong answer and traps of discouragement away from the right answer. And until you know which tricks and traps you personally are uniquely prone to falling for, you can't help but avoid making the same mistake again. When it comes to understanding the argument or the passage, if we're talking reading comprehension, you've got to be able to translate or transform that text into simpler language. Until you could truly explain it to a 5-year-old, until you could dumb it down and reword it in your own words without looking at the text, you don't have true ownership or mastery over the text or the argument or the passage. And so when I work with students, I'll tell them, put the books away, put the questions away, look at me and tell me that you know what the passage is saying, what the argument is saying. And if you're one of those people who explains it by just reading the argument verbatim, drop a comment. I know who you are. I see students do this all the time. You're not alone, but you've got to be able to relay that information without looking at the text to show me that you've truly got it. Now, if you're looking for help with this process, at LSAT Unplugged, we demonstrate the Socratic review method live in our classes, and they're all recorded for any that you can't make. Of course, we'll hold your hand and walk you through this process in our private one-on-one coaching programs. We have literally hundreds of recorded classes if you're looking for this on video, since we've been doing these multiple nights per week since even before the pandemic. Learning to understand the argument for yourself, to show that you could see the exam from the test maker's point of view, is one of the biggest things you can do to maximize your odds of hitting the 170s on LSAT test day. And so if you're interested in finding out more, you can check out the links below the video to book a call with me and my team. We'd be glad to help you out. Now, of course, all of this is regardless of the LSAT question type. Even though there are roughly 15 different types of logical reasoning questions, this approach works for any of them, no matter which types you are or are not struggling with. If there's a type that you don't like, you can transform the argument into one you do like and make it that much easier to solve. But before you even get into question types, you want to make sure that you're clear on the method of reasoning and the underlying principles in the argument. You also want to look at conditional indicators for necessary and sufficient conditions. You want to look at indicators for evidence and conclusion, because these will carry you far. If you don't know them, you're in trouble. We have foundational material to help you out as well. So check out the links below to find out more. And in the meantime, I wish you all the best and take care.